Okay, we are back talking about bundle branch blocks, left bundle branch, right bundle branch, anterior fascicular block, posterior fascicular block, all kinds of exciting things. Okay, so let's keep going, right? So, not sure, did we do this one or not? Can't remember. We'll do it again. So, let me get my pen out here. Let's just go over everything in a systematic approach, right? So first thing I'm asking myself is, does this rhythm have P waves? Yes, it does. P for every QRS. Yes, it does. Same morphology. Yes, it does, right? So that's good news. PR intervals within normal limits. Very good. Then my QRS width. Well, if you come looking around here, you'll notice that this QRS is a little bit wider than it's supposed to be, right? Got a wide QRS. So if I got a wide QRS, that means, well, is it a ventricular rhythm? Is it a bundle branch block? Like what's going on here, right? But I know that I got P waves. So it means it's not a ventricular rhythm. So P waves, wide QRS, probably a bundle branch block, maybe. Still got to meet the criteria though, right? Okay. So we'll come back to that. We know we got wide QRSs. At this point, we're just information gathering, right? That's why we ask ourselves these questions. We're just trying to find out, what is going on with this rhythm that we're looking at, and try to apply what we have learned and see where we can connect the dots. Right? I mean, that's kind of how all this works. So, all right. So R to R intervals next. Do I have regular R to R intervals? Looks regular to me, right? So then we got to just do our rate, right? Our rate is in somewhere in between 60 and 100. So we have all the criteria for a sinus rhythm. That's good. But we have an abnormality, right? What abnormality we have? We got a wide QRS here, okay? So we got to figure out why this thing is wide. Is it a bundle branch block? Well, let's find out. So remember, for our bundle branch blocks, we go to V1, lead 1, V6, okay? So if V1 is a negative deflection, lead 1 has an R wave only, V6 has pretty much R wave only, no Qs, right? That meets, and then of course the width being wide, that meets our criteria for a left bundle branch block. If you're not sure why that meets the criteria for left bundle branch block, brush up on what the criteria is for a left bundle branch block and a right bundle branch block. Because if you don't have that memorized, or at least handy to look at, you're not going to be able to identify it. So you're definitely going to want to put that in the old memory. All right. So let's do another one. Let's kind of keep going here. There we go. Take a second to look at what we got. All right, so asking ourselves some questions, finding out what the rhythm is, right? P waves present, upright, P for every QRS, P same morphology, cool. PR intervals, looking good, looking good. Going all the way across, right? QRS width, we got something abnormal here, right? We got some wide QRSs wherever you want to look. They're wide everywhere, right? Okay, we'll come back to that. R waves, regular R's, R, right? So we have a regular rhythm because we have a regular R to R interval, okay? Rate somewhere between 60 and 100. So the good news here is that we have some sort of sinus rhythm. So that's like the good news, okay? The bad news is that we've got something that is abnormal. So we got to now try to figure out what it is, right? So what are we going to do? Look at V1, right? Because we know we got some kind of a bundle branch block, probably, because we got these wide QRSs with P waves. So I always start at V1, and then I go to lead one, and then I go to V6. Okay. So if I go to V1 and V1's going down, it's probably going to be a left bundle. But we got to confirm that with lead one and V6. And lead one should have only an R wave. V6 should have pretty much only an R as well. No Qs. Okay, that's the big thing. No Qs. Qs go down. Okay, Qs go down. R's go up. S's come back up again. Okay. All right. So what do we got here? Sinus rhythm, left bundle branch block. Why is the left bundle branch block? V1 has negative deflection. Turn signal goes down to the left. Lead one has R wave only. V6 got an R wave only. So that's why you have a left bundle branch block. And of course, you have a wide QRS. Well, that goes without saying, though. All right, so that's what we got for that. Let's do the next one. There we go. Get the pen back. All right, so it's looking a little sloppy, a little ugly, right? What's going on here? We've got these huge Qs, right? Going down into the lead below it. It's gross looking. Makes it hard to kind of see what's going on. But just like in traumatic injuries, you have what's called distracting injuries, right? Don't get distracted by the leads running into the lead below it. Just looks a little sloppy. We got to look around that stuff, okay? So first thing, figure out what the rhythm is. P waves are present and upright. Same morphology, P for every QRS. Looking good. PR interval within normal limits. I like it. QRS, not within normal limits. I don't like it. Got wide QRSs with P waves, probably got some kind of bundle branch block. We'll come back to that. R waves. Do I have regular R to R intervals? The question is, yes, I do, which means it is a regular rhythm because regular rhythms have regular R to R intervals. So looks like we got a sinus rhythm of some kind, right? Looks like the rate's in between 60 and 100. So that means we got a sinus rhythm. We actually got something going on here, which we haven't talked about. We're going to talk about that next video. Something called left atrial enlargement, right? Got some big old P waves, man. We got some big old P waves. All right. So we're not worried about the left atrial enlargement. We'll come back to that. We're going to do that in the next video. For right now, we're just trying to figure out what's going on with this bundle branch block, right? So once again, bundle branch block, I go to V1. Where is it going? It's going down. That's negative deflection, right? Lead one, R wave, V6, R wave. So based on what we know, this meets our criteria for a sinus rhythm with a left bundle branch block. And why is it a left bundle branch block? Because you have wide QRSs, negative deflections in V1, R waves only in lead one, and V6, R waves only as well. When I say R waves only, I mean lead one does not have a Q, R, S. It has a R. That's what we mean by R waves only, right? It does not have a little Q wave. Okay, so let's move on to the next one here. See what we got going on. Take a little look at it. So let's pick a lead. Let's do lead, I don't know, lead 2 maybe, maybe even V5. Lead 2 is a little better. So I'm going to look at lead 2 going all the way across. Do I have P waves? That's a P wave. That's a P wave. That's a P wave. That's a P wave. That's a P wave, P wave, P wave. So I have P's. P waves have the same morphology. P for every QRS. My PR interval is normal. Oops. I really thought I was erasing. Uh-oh, I broke it. Go away, you red line. There it is. All right, now let's unbreak it. Oh, this thing's driving me crazy, dude. 1 second. There we go. Annotate. Pen. Back in business. Okay. All right, so I feel like this is a different one than we were looking at. What's going on here? Oh. Ah, there we go. All right, now we're back in business here. Okay, so we were looking at these P waves and we were circling them. P wave here, P wave here. Okay, so P waves look good. Same morphology, P for every QRS. And PR intervals look within normal limits. That's cool. What's the next step? QRS. Well, we got some wide QRSs. This is really hard to look at right here because this lead here is going down into that. So I don't really want to look at that, but you can kind of look all over to see if you have wide QRSs, right? So I got wide QRSs, right? They're kind of all over the place. So we got some wide QRSs, that's for sure. What about my R to R interval? So this is kind of interesting, right? Because I went all the way across. Let's just do V5 for right now. R wave, R wave, R wave, R, R wave, R wave, R wave, R wave. So what do we notice by looking at our R waves? Well, we notice that we have an irregular rhythm, right? Because we do not have regular R to R intervals. So, well, why would we have an irregular rhythm? Well, what are some causes of irregular rhythms? You could be in a irregular rhythm itself. So it could be like an atrial fibrillation or a wandering atrial pacemaker, right? Different kind of causes of that. But we don't have any fibrillations or atrial fibrillations going on here. So I don't think it's that. And we have the same morphology pretty much on our P waves. So it's not a wandering atrial pacemaker, right? So let's look at the timing pattern of this whole thing, right? So it looks like this one happened a little bit too soon because this is your T to P segment, T to P segment, T to P segment. See how long these T to P segments are? But then you get a T to P segment that's like that long, and then that long, and then like that long, right? So you have these T to P segments that are a little bit shorter in some of these beats. So what you're doing and what you're seeing here is you're seeing a premature atrial contraction, right? And it's throwing off the irregularity of this whole rhythm. So what we're seeing is a sinus rhythm with PACs. Looks like two of them. That would be a PAC. That would be a PAC, right? Well, to be very specific, that's a PAC, and that's a PAC, which just leads to a ventricular contraction that happens a little bit too soon as well. All right, but we're not going to split hairs here. So we got a sinus rhythm. We got some PACs. We also got some wide QRSs. Well, we know that's a bundle branch block because we got P waves with the wide QRS, right? And we're going to confirm that it's a bundle by looking at V1, lead 1, V6. So V1 is going to go down, negative deflection. Lead 1 has R wave only. V6 got R wave only. That's a left bundle branch block. Okay, so that is a left bundle branch block. So this would be a normal sinus rhythm, PACs, left bundle branch block. That's what this would be. All right, let's do the next one. So pretty much same thing going on here. Just got to get used to looking at this stuff, right? That's all. So T wave, P wave, QRS, T, P, QRS, T, P, QRS, T. P wave is kind of buried in there somewhere, a little artifact here. T wave, P wave, QRS, so on and so forth, okay? Just helping label some things if you're having trouble seeing it. So where are we at? So I got P waves, right? P waves have pretty much the same morphology, hard to tell. P for every QRS. Yeah, looks like it. Got a little artifact in its rhythm, so it's a little hard to see, but they're there. P waves are there. PR intervals are within normal limits. They're not prolonged. QRS, well, QRSs are wide. That's a wide QRS. I'm just kidding. We got some wide QRSs, right? All over the place. So looks like a bundle branch block. Bundle branch block. Yeah, I think I said that right. When you start talking for a living, sometimes you say some crazy things. You're not even sure if you're saying the right stuff. So yes, looks like a bundle branch block. And we go to V1 to confirm with 1 and V6. And we have negative deflection and V1, R wave, R wave. And we got a little bit faster of a rate too. We got a rate of about just a little bit over 100. So we're gonna have sinus tach here is what looks like is gonna happen. So it looks like we got sinus tachycardia with a left bundle branch block. I think I forgot to do the regularity. If I did, I'm really sorry about that. Sometimes I can't multitask while I'm talking. So we do have pretty much a regular rhythm here for the most part. All right, so left bundle branch block, that's the big takeaway here. What left bundles do we got? Let's do something different. JK, more left bundles. Okay. So, P waves, yes or no? Hard to see, but they're there because that's a P wave, and that's a P wave, and that's a P wave. Here's another kind of just a little pro tip for you. If you have P waves, then you have P waves. So like if you have P waves from like here to here and like from here to here or wherever the case, and you just don't see any right here, they're there, right? P waves don't like just kind of come and go as they please. Like they're either there or they're not pretty much. So it's pretty safe to say if I see them here, then this rhythm has P waves, has some sort of atrial activity coming out of the SA node. Okay, so just a little thing to kind of keep in your mind. All right, so P waves present, morphology is good. P for every QRS. PR intervals within normal limits. QRS is definitely wide, right? So, oh, R to R interval, sorry. R. So it looks like a regular rhythm to me based on the regularity of the R to R intervals. So trying to figure out what kind of a bundle branch block this is, because I think we got a bundle branch block. Well, why is it oh man, spoiler alert, right? Why is it a left bundle branch block? Because we got V1 is a negative deflection. Lead one, you got R waves only, no Qs really. And V6 pretty much the same thing. So honestly, you're really looking at V1 to see what's going on. You got to confirm with 1 and V6 also, but I always kind of start at V1 because if it's going down, it's probably left, and if it's going up, it's probably right. All right. So pretty much same thing here. P waves present, maybe, possibly. Hard to tell. So if we're just looking at a bundle branch here, we were going to ask ourselves which type of a bundle branch block is it? B1, lead one, B6. Got a little bit of a double R here, right? That's actually something called Cabrera's sign, like right there. Usually indicative of like a MI or something. So V1 has a negative deflection, just R waves only, no Qs, R waves only, no Qs, and lead one and V6. Negative deflection in V1. Got another left bundle branch block. All right, so you kind of get the point with all that. All right, so this is going to be our last. Yeah, this one's a little tricky. This will be our last left bundle here. So we've got pretty much P waves, right? Got kind of like a normal sinus thing going on. Starts to get a little irregular here, though, right? But it's not that it's getting irregular because it's not going back to this regularity over here. It's just speeding up. So what you see from here to here is this rate is speeding up now, and this is its new regularity. Okay. And then, of course, you have this thing going on here where you don't see any P waves at all. So what you're actually seeing here, guys, is kind of a normal sinus rhythm that has a little bit of a run of SVT, as we say, right? And then it comes out of SVT. So this guy or girl or whoever it is, they were like living their life for a couple of seconds at a time, and then went from here to here, literally into SVT, and then out of SVT, and then back into a normal sinus rhythm again. So that's kind of crazy, right? Um, these things out in the world are not cut and dry. You're going to see people's hearts do some really crazy things sometimes. And it's kind of impressive that we kind of catch it switching from one thing to another thing just in a short time period that a 12 leading encompasses, right? So once again, we got some wide QRSs. So if I was going to ask myself, well, what kind of a bundle branch block would this be? Well, I would say that V1 has a negative deflection. And if you're a little curious or a little confused as to what you're looking at here, right, this is your Q, your S, and these are your T waves, T, right, like that. Sometimes it gets a little confusing what you're looking at. So it's like, here's your QS and a T, QS, T, so on and so forth, right? So we're not really seeing any P waves from here to here because we're going into a run of SVT. So you might ask yourself, well, hold on, if I don't have P waves and it's Y, doesn't that mean it's a ventricular rhythm? Well, the answer is sometimes. And I know that's probably frustrating because, as a student, we like to make things as black and white as possible and to find hard rules to follow. But sometimes, especially, well, in medicine in general, but especially in EKG, there's going to be like there's this exception to the rule, right? So, you can have something like a patient that has SVT, which if you go back to your criteria in your head, you're like, oh, SVT, that's a narrow complex. Well, it's supposed to be a narrow complex, but you can actually have what's called an electrical aberrancy. In other words, an abnormal conduction of electricity, right? So if you have SVT, but you also have a bundle branch block, then it's going to be like a wide SVT, right? Because the bundle branch makes it wide. So things get a little crazy out there, okay? So first things first, we're just doing bundles right now. What kind of bundles is it? This is a negative deflection in V1. Looks like R wave. Oops, sorry, I circled the wrong one. R wave, right? So negative deflection V1. V1 goes down, left bundle branch block, okay? All right. So this one's a little bit different. It's interesting. So P wave, P wave, P wave, P wave, P wave, P wave. P waves are here. Kind of hard to see, but they're here. Okay. QRS, if you look here, here, you got kind of a wide QRS. Okay. So we got this wide QRS from the very beginning of the Q to the very end of the S. Okay. Kind of see how you have like a R and then a second R, double R. Remember how we talked about that? It's usually associated with bundle branch blocks, right? So in this particular case, we have some kind of sinus rhythm, it looks like. But we also got this wide QRS going on here. So like that's kind of wide from there to there. So where are we going to look? We're always looking at V1, lead 1, V6. Now, our criteria for a right bundle branch block is different than a left bundle branch block. So because V1 has a positive deflection, because the baseline's like here, right? Or there. Because we have a positive deflection in V1, that means that we probably have a right bundle branch block, because right bundle branch blocks go up in V1 and lefts go down. But we got to confirm in lead 1. Now, if we go over to lead 1 and V6, you'll remember what they say. We have what they call slurred S waves. Slurred S waves. So this S wave doesn't come back up nice and tight like that. Comes back up like that, which doesn't look like a huge difference, right? The difference between that and that is a lot, because I shouldn't be able to fill in this swimming pool here, right? Shouldn't be able to fill it in. So we have positive deflections in V1. We have slurred S waves in lead 1. Slurred S waves, hard to see, but some slurred S waves in V6. So this, my friends, would be a sinus rhythm with a right bundle branch block, because that electricity has been blocked going down that right bundle branch now. Everything's propagating over from the left side. All right, so if you want to go ahead and look at the rhythm, it looks like a normal sinus, well, sinus rhythm, it looks like, right? And everything kind of checks out except for that. What's going on with that? Well, like this. That's not normal. So that's just that double R that we were kind of talking about at once upon a time. So we got a wide QRS here. So P waves are present. P for every QRS. P's have the same morphology. PR interval is normal. QRS is wide. R to R is regular. So we got a sinus rhythm. The rate's 60 to 100. So we got a sinus rhythm. We got some kind of bundle branch block, though. So how do we figure out what kind of bundle branch block we got? Well, if it goes in a positive deflection in V1 above the baseline, and then you have a slurred S wave in lead 1 and a slurred S wave in V6, you have a right bundle branch block. It doesn't always have to have the bunny ears. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. This would be a sinus rhythm with a right bundle branch block. All right, so this one, we're going to have to pay, excuse me, we're going to have to pay a little bit closer attention to. So let's identify some things. We got P waves. P's same morphology, P for every QRS. But our PR interval, I don't like it. Our PR interval looks a little bit too far, right? A little bit too far. So, hold on one second here. Accidentally drew on the PowerPoint and not on the recording. There we go. So we have P waves. Everything with the P waves is good, except this PR interval is prolonged. So it's hard to tell, but that's like, I don't know, 0.24 or something like that. It's hard to see. Maybe even more than that. 0.26, 0.28. I don't know. It's definitely over 0.20. That is for sure. So we have a prolonged PR interval. So what do we know that has a prolonged PR interval? A first degree AV block. Okay. Is that all that we got going on? Nope, because we have some wide QRSs. So if we got some wide QRSs with P waves, we got some kind of bundle branch block. And V1, lead 1, V6 is where we're looking at for our bundle branch block. So we got a positive deflection in V1, slurred S wave in lead 1, slurred S wave in V6. V1 goes up, got a right bundle branch block. So we would say this is a sinus rhythm with a first degree AV block and a right bundle branch block. Okay. So why is it a first degree AV block? Because we have a prolonged PR interval. Why is it a right bundle branch block? Because we got wide QRS, positive deflection on V1. What do I mean by positive deflection? I mean the majority of this lead, this electrical activity is going above the baseline. That's what we mean by positive deflection. And then we got slurred S wave in lead 1 and a slurred S wave in V6. Shouldn't be able to fill in the swimming pool. All right. Yeah, this guy got some what we call pathologic Q waves. This guy's had an old MI in the past. We're going to talk about that more when we get into MIs. But for right now, let's just identify the bundle branch block, okay? Just for practice. So if I told you you have a bundle branch block, what type of bundle branch block do you have? You would say, well, I'm going to look at V1, and V1 is a positive deflection. Lead 1 has slurred S waves, and V6, oh man, has a little bit, it's hard to see. It's very low voltage, but it's pretty much, it's kind of debatable, you could say. So you could say this has a right bundle branch block because of slurred S waves in lead 1 or V6. Some people might say that it doesn't meet the right bundle branch block criteria because V6 doesn't have slurred S waves. It more falls under the category of interventricular conduction delay, which is basically what we call a bundle branch block that doesn't meet all the criteria for a bundle branch block, right? It's pretty much what's happening here. Okay, but I would still say it's a right bundle branch block. It's just kind of pretty close on this V6 lead here is all. So let's just one more time. Let's just do a bundle branch block check for just to kind of speed things along, right? If I told you it's a bundle branch block, what type of bundle branch block is it? You look at V1, V1 is positive. Notice this doesn't have the RR thing, right? It's just one R. So it can be either or. So don't rely on those bunny ears that we talked about because there might not always be there. But I'll tell you what will be there if it's a right bundle branch block. A positive wide deflection on V1, slurred S waves in lead 1, slurred S waves in V6. So that would be a right bundle branch block. So once again, just identifying the bundle branch block. V1, positive deflection. Lead 1, slurred S wave. V6, slurred S wave. Got a right bundle branch block. So this is a little more tricky, right? So if you look right here, see all that stuff? Those look like fibrillations to me. And then you couple that with a irregular R to R interval. We're going to call that a fib. So it looks like this person is in atrial fibrillation, right? Got some wide QRSs, V1. It's hard to tell, but it does have a positive deflection. Lead 1 has slurred S wave, V6 has slurred S wave. So this is going to be atrial fibrillation. As you can see, the fibrillating waves, right? And the irregular R to R interval, all marks of atrial fibrillation, coupled with a right bundle branch block. Okay. So that's where we're at in life right now. All right. Now, finally, we can move on to something a little bit more tricky. So we did left bundle branches, we did right bundle branches. Okay. So you've got a left anterior fascicular block and a left posterior fascicular block. So I'm going to show you something. We're going to go to your guys' PowerPoint here. So you've got some criteria, okay? So I like this photo over here and the same one on the next page too. But I like this and all of that because it does a good job of explaining what's going on here. So remember, guys, we talked about fascicular blocks. So what's a fascicular block? So you got a right bundle branch and a left bundle branch. And that left bundle branch divides into two parts, an anterior fascicle and a posterior fascicle. So if we say you have a left anterior fascicular block, the left bundle is still conducting electricity. The left posterior fascicle still conducting electricity, but for whatever reason, the left anterior fascicle has been blocked. Okay, that's what we mean by that. All right. So let me just also point something out here too. This word hemiblock, hemi means like half, right? So to say left anterior fascicular block is the same thing as saying a left anterior hemiblock. Okay. So a hemiblock and a anterior fascicular block are the same thing. It's just a different term for it. Okay. Do not abbreviate anterior hemiblock like LAH, for example, so as in left anterior hemiblock, because that's not what LAH means. That means left atrial hypertrophy, which is the standard accepted abbreviation for LAH. So don't go making up your own acronyms and terms and shortcuts and things. So, so here's what we're going to pay attention to. Left anterior fascicular block. You're going to have what's called a Q1 and an S3. Well, what the heck does that mean? That means in lead 1, that's where the 1 comes from, you're going to have a Q wave, which you do right there. Because otherwise you probably would not. Now, in lead 3, you're going to have a deep S wave, right? S wave coming up. Okay. So that's technically the criteria, right? Left axis deviation is usually going to produce a left anterior fascicular block. You usually have this Q1 S3 thing going on, but I'm going to show you a way easier way of doing all of this. Okay. Here's what I'm going to show you. Two things, two shortcuts to diagnose a left anterior fascicular block. Okay. One is in the presence of a right bundle branch block, and the other is in the presence of a left axis deviation. Okay. So in the event that you have a left axis deviation, or in the event that you have a right bundle branch block, you need to come over here and look at lead 2. Okay. If lead 2 is primarily positive, then all is good. We're good, right? But if you have a left axis deviation, or you have a right bundle branch block, and we come over and look at lead 2, and lead 2 is a net negative lead. In other words, the net deflection, in other words, which way does it go more? It goes down more, so it's a net negative deflection. If you have a net negative deflection in lead 2 in the presence of a right bundle branch block or a left axis deviation, you have a left anterior fascicular block. So let's process all that for a second. It's really easy. You have a right bundle branch block, I look at lead 2. If lead 2 is a negative deflection, then I also have a left anterior fascicular block. So we would say you have a right bundle branch block with a anterior hemiblock. Or you could say it the old-fashioned way and say we have a right bundle branch block with a left anterior fascicular block. Either way is acceptable. So all you got to do is look at lead 2. But the two circumstances you do this are in the presence of a right bundle branch block or a left axis deviation. Well, look what we got here. Lead 1 goes up and AVF goes down. Guess what kind of axis deviation that is? That's a left axis deviation. So if we have a left axis deviation, what do? We go look at lead 2. If lead 2 goes down, we also have left anterior fascicular block. Okay, so that is how you're going to identify that. So keep that in mind. So when do I need to look for left anterior fascicular blocks? When I have a right bundle branch block or when I have a left axis deviation. If either of those things are true, then you go look at lead 2. If lead 2 is predominantly negative, then you have whatever you got going on, right bundle branch block, left axis deviation, whatever it was before, and now you also have a left anterior fascicular block, okay? Your left posterior fascicle is extremely rare and is not common at all. So it's literally the opposite, okay? So in this case, lead 1 is going to have an S wave. Let's try it again. Lead 1 is going to have an S wave, and lead 3 is going to have a Q wave, okay? Whereas normally they wouldn't in this particular instance. So left posterior fascicular block most commonly is going to happen in a right axis deviation. So just kind of keep that in mind. So left axis deviation more along the lines of anterior fascicular block, right axis deviation more in lines with posterior fascicular block, okay? So let's switch our screen here. So what do we got going on here? So I'm just going to tell you what the rhythm is, guys, so we can kind of just speed things along a little bit, right? But actually, you know what? Let's not do that. Let's do it the proper way. So what do I got? I got a P waves, right? Cool. P for every QRS. P's have the same morphology, regular R to R's. And see, we got narrow QRSs. So I'm sorry, we have with PR intervals within normal limits, narrow QRSs, and regular R to R intervals. So all that pretty much checks out. So we got to apply this systematic approach. So I do my rate first, looks like it's sinus tach. Then I do my rhythm, looks like it's sinus tach. Then I do my intervals, PR interval, QRS, normal, 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 right? Then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to check my axis next. So I go to lead 1 and I go to AVF. Well, if 1 is up and AVF is down, in other words, 1 is predominantly positive and AVF is predominantly negative, that means I have a left axis deviation. If you're having trouble with axis, please go back and review axis video. So I have a left axis deviation. Now, I told you in the presence of a right bundle branch block or a left axis deviation, what do we need to do? We need to go look at lead 2. And if lead 2 is predominantly negative in the presence of a left axis deviation or right bundle branch block, then you have a left anterior fascicular block. So what we're seeing here is a sinus tachycardia with a left anterior fascicular block. Why is it left anterior fascicular block? Because I have a left axis deviation. Why do I have a left axis deviation? Because lead 1 is positive and AVF is negative. That's why. All right, so pretty much same thing going on here, right? Looks like we got a normal sinus rhythm. D waves are present, D for every QRS, same morphology. PR intervals within normal limits, QRS is narrow. So that stuff pretty much checks out. So that's good news. Axis, lead 1 and AVF. Well, lead 1 goes up, AVF goes down. So if you use your thumbs, that's going to tell you you have a left axis deviation. So when we have left axis deviation, where do we need to go look? We need to go look at lead 2. And in this particular case, lead 2, again, has a net negative deflection. In other words, it goes down more than it goes up. So if you have a negative deflection in lead 2, in the presence of a left axis deviation, you're going to have a left anterior fascicular block. So that's pretty much what you got to do. Okay. So when am I looking at lead 2 to see if I have a left anterior fascicular block, whether I'm looking at lead 2 if I have a right bundle branch block or if I have a left axis deviation. Okay. So again, pretty much same thing going on here. This is going to be a sinus rhythm. It's got a left axis deviation because lead 1 is positive, AVF is negative. So if I have a left axis deviation, first thing I need to do is go to lead 2. Lead 2 is a net negative. So if I have negative deflection in lead 2 in the presence of a left axis deviation, I have a left anterior fascicular block. Yeah. All right. Let's see what we got. All right. Now, this is getting interesting. So we have something called a bifascicular block. Bi meaning 2, and bifascicular meaning 2 fascicles, right? So if you look at what's going on here, you're going to see that we have a normal sinus rhythm. And if you keep looking, you're going to see that we have this wide QRS, V1, then we come over here to lead 1, slurred S waves, V6 with its slurred S waves. So it looks like I got a sinus rhythm, and V1 is a positive deflection, so that means it's a right bundle branch block. Why is it a right bundle branch block? Because got the wide QRS, positive V1, slurred S wave, lead 1, slurred S wave, V6. That's why it's a right bundle branch block. Well, what did I tell you? When you got a right bundle branch block, what do you need to go look at? You need to go look at lead 2. If lead 2 is predominantly negative, in other words, it goes down more than it goes up, then you have a left anterior fascicular block in the presence of a right bundle branch block. So when you have 2 of these fascicles, because the bundle is a fascicle technically, sort of, we're going to call that a bifascicular block. So in this particular case, this patient has a bifascicular block. Well, why is it a bifascicular block? Well, what is a bifascicular block? It's either going to be a right bundle branch block plus a left anterior fascicle, or maybe a right bundle branch block plus a left posterior fascicle. Doesn't matter, but there's two pathways that are blocked here. That's what's going on in a bifascicular block. You have 2 pathways that are blocked. In this particular case, you've got a right bundle branch block because of the wide QRS V1, slurred S wave lead 1, V6 slurred S wave. What did I tell you when we have a right bundle branch block to do? Come over here, lead 2, look at net deflection. If that net deflection is negative, then you also have a left anterior fascicular block. Because you have a right bundle branch block and a left anterior fascicular block in the same thing, we call that a bifascicular block. All right. So pretty much same thing over here again. Got a normal sinus rhythm, P waves, present, regular, upright, same morphology, P for every QRS, QRS every P, regular PR interval, R to R is regular. So it looks like a sinus rhythm, right? But we have this wide QRS going on here. So you'll notice my V1 is a little wide. And when it's wide and it has a positive deflection, lead 1 has a slurred S wave, V6 has a slurred S wave. That tells me we got a right bundle branch block. And when we got a right bundle branch block, where do we need to go look? We need to go look at lead 2. If lead 2 has a negative deflection in all of its QRSs, then not only do we have a right bundle branch block, but we also have a left anterior fascicular block. Why do we have a right bundle branch block? Because we got wide QRSs, positive deflection in V1, slurred S waves in 1 and V6, and we have a left anterior fascicular block also. Why do we have a left anterior fascicular block? Well, because in the presence of a right bundle branch block, lead 2 has a negative deflection. That means something is wrong. And that means you have a left anterior fascicular block. And when you have a right bundle branch block in conjunction with a left anterior fascicular block, you have a bifascicular block. Okay. Yeah, so pretty similar. Got a normal sinus rhythm. Right bundle branch block. V1 is positive. Slurred S waves in lead 1 and V6. And looked at lead 2. Is it positive or negative? If it's a positive, great. If it's negative, we also have a left anterior fascicular block. Also have a little bit of a short PR interval here too. Some calcium issues maybe. All right, same thing going on again. All right, same thing. So what do we got? Got normal sinus rhythm, P wave, P wave, P wave, so on and so forth. Regular R to Rs. And got a little bit of wide QRS here. Got that double R on the top, right? Because one of the ventricles is depolarizing extremely minuscule amount quicker than the other ventricle, which is kind of creating a mismatch or to be out of sync with one another. Not a big deal. It's okay. But we've got these wide QRSs in V1, slurred S waves in lead 1, slurred S waves in V6. We're going to call that a right bundle branch block. Then, because we have a right bundle branch block, we're going to lead 2. We're going to look at, is this positive or negative? If it's a negative deflection, like it looks like, then they also have a left anterior fascicular block. So if you have a right bundle branch block because of V1, lead 1, V6, okay, cool. What about lead 2? Oh, that's a negative deflection. Now you also have a left anterior fascicular block. So right bundle branch block plus left anterior fascicular block equals a bifascicular block. A bifascicular block can be a couple of different things, but in this particular case, that's what's going on here. All right, so pretty much same thing going on. This is pretty interesting rhythm, actually. So you got a flutter. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we got a flutter with a 4-to-1 conduction ratio. So that's kind of cool. We don't see that very often. But then we also got a wide QRS over here. This person's got all kind of stuff going on, right? Kind of feel bad for them. V1 looks like we have a positive deflection. Remember, this is a wide QRS as we're looking at. So V1 has a wide complex positive deflection, and lead 1 has slurred S waves, slurred S waves. So what does that mean? That means I have a right bundle branch block. V1 goes up, right bundle branch block. So if I have a right bundle branch block, what do I need to do? I need to come over here to lead 2, and I need to look at this. And if that is a positive deflection, then great. If it's a negative deflection, which it is because it goes below the baseline, then in that particular case, we also, in addition to our right bundle branch block, we have a left anterior hemi block. Why do we have a left anterior hemi block? Because in the presence of a right bundle branch block, you had a negative deflection in lead 2. All right, so this is, oops, sorry. This is kind of cool, kind of interesting, kind of weird. So if you figure out what the rhythm is, you guys should be able to do that by now, hopefully. Figure out this is a normal sinus rhythm. But if you went through all the rules, systematic approach, you will have seen that your PR interval is prolonged. Prolonged. So that's odd, right? So what do we call a prolonged PR interval? We call that a first degree AV block, right? So this guy's got a first degree AV block. It's also got some wide QRS stuff going on. And V1, we got a positive deflection. Lead 1, we got slurred S wave. V6, we got slurred S wave. So if in V1, positive deflection, slurred S waves, lead 1, V6, that's a right bundle branch block. Well, we already got a first degree AV block and a right bundle branch block. Well, what do we have to do when we have a right bundle branch block? Well, we got to go look at lead 2. Lead 2, we've got a negative deflection. So if we have a negative deflection in lead 2 in the presence of a right bundle branch block, then we also got a left anterior fascicular block. So this is like kind of crazy, right? Because we got a bunch of stuff going on here. So I don't like this term. They call it a trifascicular block. I don't really understand this term because like your first degree AV block is in the AV junction. That's not like a fascicle. So I don't really get it, but that's what they call it. So they call it trifascicular block. So what the heck is a trifascicular block? Well, a trifascicular block is a combination of 3 things: a first degree AV block, a right bundle branch block, and then a either left anterior, left posterior bundle branch block. So I'm sorry, left anterior fascicular block. Boy, I'm starting to run out of gas here a little bit. Time to recharge the batteries. So this is like a lot going on here, right? So we would say this person has a trifascicular block. Well, what makes up the 3 components of a trifascicular block? A first degree AV block, a right bundle branch block, and then another fascicle. So it can be left anterior, left posterior, doesn't matter, but they need to have one more thing. So you got to think, if this person right here had some sort of bradycardia issue, they would have a hard time getting things going again because their right bundle branch is blocked. Their left anterior fascicle is blocked. There's some sort of block in the AV node. And the only thing that's not really truly being affected is the left posterior fascicle, right? So that's pretty crazy when you think about it. Pretty cool. All right. 2 more and then we're going to call it quits. So more of the same, it looks like. So it looks like we got P waves, same morphology, P for every QRS. PR interval, however, is prolonged. QRS is wide, R to R is regular. I got a first degree AV block. V1, I know I got a bundle branch block of some kind, I just don't know what. V1 is a positive deflection. Lazy S wave on lead 1. Lazy S wave on V6. So that meets our criteria for a right bundle branch block. So what do we say when you have a right bundle branch block you need to do? You need to go to lead 2. And if lead 2 is a negative deflection lead, in the presence of a right bundle branch block, then you have also a left anterior fascicular block. So what all is going on with this person? This person's got all kinds of stuff going on. So they got a first degree AV block somewhere, right? What they did. So they got a first degree AV block and a right bundle branch block and a trifascicular block. I'm sorry. Okay, let me do this one more time. We're on the last slide. Running out of gas. Trying my best. Let's finish. Finish strong. Okay. So we have a first degree AV block because we have prolonged PR interval. We have a right bundle branch block because we have a positive deflection in V1, slurred S waves in 1 and V6. And then because we have right bundle branch block, we go to lead 2. We see what's going on over lead 2. We're like, yo, lead 2, what's up, man? Lead 2 is like, oh, man, you know, it's got a negative deflection going on over here. So that means we have a left anterior fascicular block. You have a left anterior fascicular block when lead 2 has a net negative deflection in the presence of a right bundle branch block or a left axis deviation. And if you really look, lead 1 and AVF is a left axis deviation also. So because we have a first degree AV block, a right bundle branch block, and a left anterior fascicular block, that's 3 blocks. We call that a trifascicular block, okay? Little less common. So that person's running literally on like one fascicle. So they might end up with a pacemaker of some kind in their future. And this is just ugly for no reason. Now the teacher, myself, is just being mean. I mean, what is going on here? It's ugly. But sometimes, you know, what happens. So it looks like it's fast. So it's over 100. So it's going to be tacky something. Got P waves. They're buried in there, but that's a P wave. That's a P wave, P wave, P wave. The T and the P are basically touching one another because it's fast. Okay. So P waves, good, present, same morphology. PR interval is, I don't know. Let me look. This looks a little prolonged almost. That looks like it's like 0.22. Yeah, it's just a hair over 0.20. So we technically have a first degree AV block because we have just a barely prolonged PR interval. So got some wide QRSs, gonna see what's going on with that. Go to V1. V1's got a positive deflection, right? Slurred S wave over here. And a slurred S wave over here. So we got first degree AV block plus a right bundle branch block. Right bundle branch block, we're going to look at lead 2. Lead 2 has a net negative deflection, which it does. Baseline. Then we got a left anterior fascicular block also. And we have a little moment of irregularity over here too. Right there. See where that got irregular just for a second? So just remember, guys, because EKG is a measurement of time, what happens here and here and here and here and here happened at the same time, just in different camera angles. Okay. So what happens here and here, or here and here, did not happen in the same time. But if this all happened at the same time, right, it's going to go straight downwards through the lead. So what we're seeing here, guys, is a PVC. So that would be a PVC right here, which makes everything irregular afterwards. PVCs always mess up the timing of things. So I realize this is a lot of stuff. This is really heavy stuff. So I mean, that's pretty much it for the bundle branches. So goals and takeaways, right? Be able to identify when you break it down into little tiny pieces, it's not that bad. Okay. So, first things first, ask yourself, do I know how to identify a left bundle branch block? If you do, great. If you don't, go learn those 3 criteria I showed you, V1, 1, V6. If you know how to identify a right bundle branch block, fantastic. If you don't, go learn those criteria because you're going to need to learn them. All right. What else? Bifascicular block. What's a bifascicular block? Right? A right bundle branch block plus either a left anterior or a posterior fascicular block. So right bundle branch is blocked, and then one of the fascicles on the left side is blocked. One's good, one's bad. Okay. And then a trifascicular block is the same thing as a bifascicular block. You're just adding in a first degree AV block, which comes from a prolonged PR interval. So you got to know those handful of things. Also, know when to look at lead 2. So if I have a right bundle branch block or a left axis deviation, I'm going to look at lead 2. And if lead 2 is negative deflection in the presence of a left axis deviation or a right bundle branch block, we're going to have a left anterior fascicular block. Okay. So that's pretty much the takeaways of all of this. Just keep practicing, keep looking at it. It comes with time. That's all I can say. But unless you guys have any questions, of course, always reach out. If we have any of our days where we're scheduled to hold an online kind of like an interactive session, if you have questions, feel free to either email us ahead of time or show up with them or whatever it is you want to do. Your learning is our priority. So that's it for bundles. And we just have one thing left in another video, next video, to wrap up this module, and that will be your hypertrophies. Okay. All right. Until next time.